It is exactly 39 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to Sunday Live here at Citizen Television. On to our live interview right now with LSK President Faith Odhiambo. But before we get to it, Faith has some background.
Olive has.
Did I say Faith? Did I say Faith?
Yeah, I think
it must be the blue.
Yeah, it must be.
The blue.
Must be.
Olive.
All right. Here are some of what LSK is demanding in terms of security measures they want put in place to ensure the safety of judicial officers. The procurement of security equipment, including X-rays and body scanners, setting up of firearm depositories, assignment of additional security officers to courts, and in the longer term, they want a judiciary police unit within the National Police Service established, security response training for judicial officers, and finally, restricted access of police to judicial officers.
Madam President, that's a big ask.
Big ask? Why is it a big ask?
It's huge. I mean, all those demands.
Let me clarify something on the judicial police unit. And now it's been set up, but it's not been properly institutionalized. And the aim would be that we would have this unit that is looking at into security and security measures for all the courts around the country. And the reason that we are demanding the same, and if you look at even some of the demands that are being made by the judges and the staff, it's just a recognition of some of the challenges that they continue to have. And so if we don't have some level of accountability, let me just share some stats that I got from judiciary. We have only 129 armed police officers in the daily courts. And looking at the number of courts we have all over the country, for judges, they have security about 477. Court orderlies in Nairobi County, we have around 123. And remember, court orderlies come with accused persons and they leave right after. So for any other matters, after criminal matters have been had, they are left a bit open. And I agree with them that even if we're looking at to set up measures that we have to protect our members in court, if you look, today you go to Milimani and even you try to walk into a judge's chambers. I remember one judge was saying that he went to his chambers at 6 a.m. and some 2 individuals barged into his office because there was no security. There was no one standing there, and he only has him and his secretary, and the secretary doesn't come at 6 a.m. So who is protecting him? In that particular occasion, even if you look at our courts. Now look at Honorable Monica's situation. She was in a makeshift a tent. You know, the beauty of having proper courts was that you have this huge desk that is sitting before you that you can at least even duck, and there's always the door next that you can sleep in case there's an outbreak or there's fire or something. But she, even if you look at that scenario where she was shot, it's just like a small desk. Where could she go for cover? So you've just opened yourself, it's a wide berth for attacks. And I say this, the proposals that we're saying that need to be set in place is also taking into consideration. We have our advocates who attend these courts. We have prosecutors who are attending these courts. We have members of the public that are consumers of these courts and are walking in and out. If you walk into any court session, you'll find most of those benches filled with members of the public. So imagine a case scenario that someone opened fire when everyone was full in that court. How many injuries would have we been talking about?
That actually leads me up to my next question.
Yeah.
What do you think will be the long-term impact of this incident on the public accessing the courts? Because court sessions are generally open. If I'm a member of the public, I'd like to follow whatever is a certain proceeding, it's open. I can go and sit and follow. Do you think this will impact that? Because justice, it is said, must be seen to be done.
I think at the interim, yes, it would affect, but at the long term, as long as we take in proper security measures, it shouldn't. Because as long as you're able to ascertain and search all these persons that are coming to these court premises, then you'll be able to ensure safety of our judges. Maybe a longer-term solution is that we need to also separate judges' chambers and where judges ordinarily sit, but at the same time, we need to have armed officers at all court stations next to all our judges and magistrates. The reality is magistrates don't get security. Judges get security. They have their personal bodyguards, but magistrates don't. Yet they're still taking the same matters. They're still handling sensitive issues. Robbery with violence, I would say those are some of the matters that are, and even civil or commercial matters that are highly emotive. If you look at a breakdown of some of even the concerns...
But before you move on to that, Jeff, do you mind if I do a quick follow-up?
Carry on.
So is this not punishing, making it more difficult to access the courts? Are you not punishing the public while this was a police officer who was armed, and you're asking for more armed police officers? Is the public not paying the price for a crime that they did not commit?
I'm saying that, you know, this is a case of one rogue police officer. And just to clarify, the police officer wasn't on duty at that particular court, nor was he set to work in that court. So he was coming. He's not there in his position as just an OCS. He's in that position as the husband of the accused person. So his reaction was with regards to that court decision that was made with regards to his partner or his spouse. So that's a reaction of a member of the public. And, you know, the concern is that if we had a proper running judicial security unit, that they were properly trained and we have proper security measures that are set in place, you know, it's not punishing the members of the public, because at the end of the day, you also must protect those members of the public because they are consumers, they're walking into those courts. Today, it's an incidence of, you know, shooting. In Garissa, there was a case where one of the members, after court decision, threw a missile at one of the judges.
When you say missile?
I think it was that's the report.
An object?
Yes, an object that he tried to hit the judge with after court decision. Now, imagine if it was a grenade or something like that. What would have been the impact? So it's not just a concern, because courts are open for service delivery and they are open to all members of the public.
Okay, what about at home? You say security in the office, at the workplace. What about when they go home? Are they safe? Are they secure?
Well, I was getting some stats from members of the judiciary, and, you know, there have been reports, Busia, in fact, that one is the most funny, that this magistrate, she was even asking to be moved because they picked things inside her house. To an extent, they even collected her gate of her house. That's the craziest scenario that I've had. But the case scenarios of even a magistrate whose child was abducted and killed because of a sensitive matter that they were handling. There are several that have been attacked even at their home premises. So unlike judges, magistrates are open to attack. They go to the same supermarkets as you and I do. They go to the same leisure premises as all of us do. So if there's a sensitive matter that they're handling, then who is there to protect them? So we have to tamper, because there are officers that are putting themselves out on the line of fire every day for us members of the public to get access to justice. But we also must be fair to them to ensure that they're properly protected. And I say hand in hand, as we talk about officers of the court, I talk as well about both my members as advocates, who we have seen a lot of members losing their lives. Willie Kimani is just one case of the several that we have lost. I, on a personal level, even members of my council, continue to receive several calls, particularly on police harassment in the line of duty. So the concerns that we have as members of the bar and the bench are concerns that ought to be dealt with.
I'm curious to know.
Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Do you all get death threats?
Well, it depends, yes. Some advocates in matters they're handling also get death threats, yeah.
Are they handled with the urgency required?
Well, so we have to take it up as the Council of the Law Society to follow up to ensure that they get adequate protection, particularly if it's for members of the police service. Because after the Willie Kimani case, I don't think we take a joke into any matter that is reported. The moment it's reported, we take action to raise that concern, as well as with IPOA that we work hand in hand with, so that we don't see another Willie Kimani scenario.
I mean, this is a strange set of circumstances, because you bring up Willie Kimani. The police are the very same people who are intended to guard judicial officers, and at least in those two incidents, they have been the ones perpetrating violence on members or judicial officers. Is that not strange to you? Is that part of why you are asking that there should be, you say there's already a specialized judiciary police unit.
Yeah.
Is that why you're asking for the operationalization of that?
We're asking for it, and they should be properly funded with a proper working secretariat. Because, you know, insecurity in our courts are our haven as advocates. And so that is where we harbor every single day. So if we can't ensure that members of the bar and bench are equally granted security, then it becomes, you know, a life of hazard just walking into our courts. But I say that is just a case. There are cases of police officers, but there are also cases of accused persons attacking members of the bench and the bar.
Did you hear about the Mombasa incident, which I found shocking, that somebody, a litigant, the ruling or the judgment did not go their way. They grabbed a gun off a police officer and attempted to fire at the magistrate, but it jammed.
It could have gone ugly.
And in Nakuru, an accused person took a screwdriver and stabbed the magistrate in court.
So given all these incidents, right, has there been a lapse?
I feel that that's why when Jeff asked that whether the judiciary is a sitting duck, I think this is just a tipping of the iceberg, the death of Honorable Monica. That it's that realization that we keep sweeping up certain incidences, and they're growing and they're more aggressive. And if you just look at a highlight, or even look at the statement that they made, there are several incidences that have happened all around the country. Just shows the lapses that continue to be there. If we don't have the judicial security unit stepping up and setting up proper security measures for all the courts around the country, because this is Nairobi and it's highly populated. If you look at the number of cases that are being filed in every single day, Makadara is a hub that it's highly congested. If you see the number of cases coming, even Honorable Monica, she was working during her lunch hour because they also have targets that they must meet. But at the end of the day, if you just look at the number that are influxed in those courts, and we don't have proper courts, we're having even makeshift courts, we need to start even having that conversation of how much is allocated to the judiciary. This judicial fund that we keep talking about that cannot be properly set and operationalized. And even as we talk about the budget, I remember the Mutula Kilonzo senior committee that talked about the judiciary getting 2%. Currently, the judiciary, I think, gets 0.06% of the budget. If I'm right, they are getting this next financial year about 24 billion. And looking at these concerns that I even raised, who is going to fund? If you look at the statement by the Chief Justice, she talks that they will take adequate security measures within the resources that they have. So if they're complaining they don't have resources, it means that you're telling us that we'll maybe just advise and put notices, but there's actually nothing that they can do to it.
Well, Madam President, you know that the budget has already been read, so you're a little too late for next year's budget. But is this a wake-up call? What happened to Monica Kivuti? Is it a wake-up call?
I think it's a wake-up call for all of us, and there's that realization that we need to spend to ensure the safety of all of our members. I say this tongue-in-cheek because if you look at the budget that we're having for infrastructure at State House and the Deputy President for improvement of his office, vis-a-vis the courts, you go around the country, there are courts that are makeshifts, that are stuck, that cannot come up. World Bank project is the one that saw development of most infrastructure that we are now seeing that have since come up. The fact that you're seeing tents is the reality that we don't have adequate resources to have proper structures that are set up at the judiciary. So I think it's a wake-up call for us and even the executive that they need to invest in our judiciary, that members of the public actually get proper services. And the challenge is that the reason the Law Society stands strongly with the judiciary is because they always get budget cuts because of their stand to uphold the rule of law. To ensure that there is integrity and justice is actually served, we need to see more coming into the judiciary, that now we hold the judiciary accountable, that you've gotten this funding, what have you done? But the more that they keep getting budget cuts, then we cannot have that conversation and ensure we move to the next level.
Follow up to that. One, who slept on the job? because these are recommendations, looking at the statement that came from the Chief Justice and the Judiciary Leadership, and today from the Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association and the Judicial Staff Association, they say they have been making these recommendations on their safety and security, but no action has been taken. So who has been sleeping on the job? Two, you talked about the Chief Justice saying they will act within what they can. I mean, they will do what they can do within their remit. What needs then to happen immediately within those resources?
First of all, I would say those who have slept on the job is, I blame as well our Parliament. Parliament is able to analyze how much budget allocation. And by failing to recognize that when you sit in Parliament, you're representing the people of Kenya and not any particular, you're not falling to the whims of the executive, then you fail the people of Kenya. Because having a properly funded judiciary ensures that we have proper access to justice and we ensure the independence of the courts, and would be now challenging the Judicial Service Commission. I also say that it's a wake-up call to our Judicial Service Commission. As the employers, they're responsible to ensure safety of the employees, and they need to relook at what can they do immediately to ensure the safety of their members. I would say that what needs to be done immediately is that we need to see how to either decongest those courts, or we see how we put in some measures of security and ensure that we work with, at the NCAJ, the Inspector of Police, the IG is a member, and we need to ensure that he devolves more people to the Judicial Service Unit, Security Unit, that we have more members are able to sit in those courts to at least protect the judicial officers that are offering justice, then as we consider and work on measures that are permanent to ensure that members of the judiciary, members of the bench, the prosecutors are well taken care of and protected.
Bottom line, are there going to be any more demands coming up, or are these the ones that we highlighted?
Well, I don't know what next is going to come from the Judges Association and the staff of the judiciary. But from the Law Society of Kenya, our demands are that we ensure some semblance of safety measures are taken into consideration. And we also ask that even as we move towards this week, that we can be able to tamper, that the judges recognize that access to justice is an essential service. And while the law does not provide that magistrates and judges are an essential service that must continue to be there, access to justice is very important in this country. That if we, a scenario that they are not sitting for the entire week will lead to great crisis, because a lot of urgent matters will be coming up. And we need our courts at all times of war. Even I would quote Lord Atkin, the courts are not silent. So we hope that the courts do not go silent. We stand with them, but let them not be silenced by this unfortunate incident.
Yeah, but they will be silenced all this coming week.
That's a good note on which to end
Absolutely.
tonight.
Faith Odhiambo, LSK President, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Tough job.